Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am thrilled today to have Miss Parul Khosla here with me. She's the CEO of Elevate Sports Talent, and then she's the co-founder and CEO of Arena, taking on recruitment and bringing more visibility to jobs in media, entertainment, and sports. She's one of LinkedIn's top voices. She's a career coach, and I'm so excited to have her here with me. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I always love to start, and especially when we're talking about the world of sports, what got you into sports in the first place? Where did your love begin there?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've always loved sports, so it's hard to pinpoint like the start of it.
Okay.
Um, I think it started as a fandom. So I'm a big New York Mets fan. Baseball is my sport. It's the first one I fell in love with. Went to games since I was like, again, like can't even like remember. So I must have been
Love
like two or three when I started going to games with my dad, and my family. And I just fell in love with it. Like something just clicked. Like I think you just know when you're like in your passion that you're in it, like you just love being there and like learning everything that you can about the sport. I would sit at home and like watch the games with my dad and I would ask him like, what's going on? Like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Like, and that's just how I learned the sport, like just from being exposed to it. And so it really just came kind of naturally to me. And then I went into playing sports, tried various different ones throughout my childhood, but really found a sweet spot in soccer when I was really young. So I played soccer all the way through like eighth grade, competitive like travel soccer. So it was year round, on a team and like traveling all over like the region, the Northeast region, to play in tournaments and to play other teams. And then kind of burnt out of soccer a little bit because I think I just went so hard on it for so long that when it came time to go to high school and I wanted to play a sport in high school, I picked up tennis and then I played on the varsity tennis team in high school. My senior year, I was captain of the team. So those were like kind of my two like biggest sports that I played. And then again, like as a fan, it was always baseball, also football as well. And then when I got to college and people asked me, like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what are you passionate about? And I was like, well, if you're asking me what I'm passionate about, it's sports, but like, I don't know if that's something I can
Yeah.
do for the rest of my life. I just had no idea. Like, I didn't know anybody that worked in sports, and it was never like something that was top of mind for me as like a career option, until I was in college and I went to Rutgers University here in New Jersey where I live. And some girl in one of my classes told me about the sports management major. And I was like, what? Like, what is that? Like, I didn't know something like that existed. So immediately I go back to my dorm. I'm like Googling it. And I was like, oh, 100%. Like, there's
Yeah.
no question. Like, I cannot be doing anything else other than this. And so that's where it started.
Awesome. I love it. People say you're either going to play a sport or you're going to work in sports, and
Right.
it's so true. If I could, I would be working in sports as well. I just love to be able to have this platform though, to be able to have my foot in sports because I love getting to talk to people in sports and
Yeah.
journeys because like it's so much fun to hear. Like you played soccer and tennis. I was like you though. I played I had my foot in every sport that I possibly could
Yeah.
to see if I like it. So I did tennis, volleyball, and finally settled on running. But it's like
Nice.
you find your thing that you love.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a little trial and error.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Do you have like a super young picture of yourself at your first Mets game that
Gosh.
your parents took or something?
I definitely do. Like the pictures then were not digital, so they're like very hard to find
Yes.
in my parents' house. They're like
Yeah.
in all these boxes.
Yeah.
So I definitely do. I haven't found one in a while. I do have a picture of like middle school age
Okay.
me at a Mets game that I usually use when I do like throwbacks, like on my
Yeah.
Instagram and stuff like that. That was kind of like when I really started like understanding the sport and like really getting into it. So I like to use that picture as like my little inspo, I was in like a pink Mets jersey. Like it was like really like
Awesome.
very girly. But yeah, that was like whenever I see that picture, it reminds me of like when everything started and like how I really realized like my passion.
I have a very young picture of myself. I was probably like 4 years old at my first Carolina Hurricanes game. I'm a massive hockey fan.
Right.
I'm like, that's
Yeah.
it. That's the picture right there
Yeah.
that kicked it all off. And so much like yourself with the Mets, I am a massive Carolina Hurricanes and hockey fan. I'm like, there it is.
Nice.
There's
Yeah. You
love
can like
for it.
see the moment that you became a
Yes.
fan.
And I
Yeah.
love it. I love those moments. I do just want to hit on, you went to Rutgers,
Yeah.
you worked with the Rutgers with the football team. You then went on to intern at New York Mets and the Jets and with the MLB. You
Yeah.
then worked with the NFL, the Walt Disney Company, Madison Square Garden Entertainment Group, Minute Media, and NHL, all in a variety of different groups.
Yeah.
But you came to be doing what founding Elevate Sports Talent and Arena. What did all of those experiences teach you that made you feel confident and prepared to go out and found these two companies?
Yeah, I don't know, honestly, if I ever felt like confident and prepared to go out and do it. Like, I don't know if any entrepreneur does, or if they say that they do, they're lying because
Like,
you're definitely not like prepared.
yes.
However, I have always just been so supremely passionate about like the process of getting hired
Okay.
anywhere, like not even just like in sports, like just how it happens, like you have like a passion and then you pursue it and there's like these steps and then what
Absolutely.
happens on the other side. Like I was always so curious about that. And I, like, as you mentioned, I did like a ton of internships in college. I was always like, once I figured out what I wanted to do, once I learned about that sport management major, I was like, I literally don't want to do anything else. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to work because it was fun and I was having like a really good time and I was in the places that like I wanted to be. And so I just always was seeking like more opportunities to work because it was fun, because it was what I
Yeah.
wanted to do. And so in that process, even in college, as I was going through all these internships, like I got all these really cool internships, but I applied for like so many more than that of like
Yeah.
what you just mentioned. So, like I think I applied for like hundreds of internships when I was in college. I did so many like interviews and I just like learned a lot about the recruitment process like in that period of time. And so I knew that there were flaws like very early on, right? I'm also a woman, I'm South Asian, I'm Indian heritage. Like it's not common for someone like me to work in sports. And that is very apparent when you're like meeting with people and you're going through these interview processes or you're in these intern classes and you're seeing like all the other people that are in those classes with
Yeah.
you. So very early on, I was like, there's like a problem here. I don't know what it is. And then as I was working my way through my career, I kind of fell into the recruiting space
Right.
inside these organizations. It just like happened to be like something that was happening that I got involved in. It started when I was at the NFL, was my first job out of college, and I got that role from a connection that I had at my MLB internship. So it was a networking thing. And in that role, I had like kind of no idea what I was going to be doing when
Right.
I first started there. And I was like an assistant. So it was just kind of like do whatever everybody tells you to do. But it happened to be like a really pivotal season when I started. It was a season that Colin Kaepernick took a knee on the field, and it started this whole like race conversation, and like all of these protests were happening. And so I literally started like right after that happened. And so I kind of like walked into chaos happening like within the league. And part of the like, hey, you're an assistant, like help us out with this kind of stuff was like, I ended up working with a woman whose name is Samantha Rappaport. She still works there. And she was running programs to help get more women and people of color hired into like coaching and scouting and like on the field type of positions. Football operations is what it's called. There's obviously like a huge lack of like diversity in everywhere, but specifically in those fields. So I was helping her put together these programs, which entailed a lot of recruiting. Like we had to go out and find candidates for these types of positions. We had to like bring them in and like educate them and like coach them on like how to network and like what they need to do to like stand out and show up. And then we would like introduce them to people that could hire them. So like head coaches, owners, GMs, like at all the different teams. And we would host these like events for them as well. So that was like my first entryway into recruiting. And so once I started doing that, I was like, this is amazing. Like I just didn't realize my passion for uh recruitment until I did that role. And then I was like, oh, wait, like this is actually everything I'm passionate about. Like I've always wanted to help people get jobs. Like I always used to do it like on the side. I was always helping my classmates like with their resume and their LinkedIn profile and like their interviews and like helping them get internships and stuff. So it all like aligned and it like clicked for me. Then that role was temporary. So I had to move on. And that's when I decided to pursue talent acquisition and recruiting in like a more formal capacity to really understand what that looked like. So all of that, I don't even know if I answered your question, but like basically all of that is how I realized my passion for recruiting. And then I also got a formal understanding of like what that looks like on the other side, the side that most people don't see as a recruiter working on these teams at these like large companies and what actually happens behind the scenes. Like how do you review a resume? Like who makes it? What stands out? What is the process with the hiring managers, the ATS, like all the stuff that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
I now was learning. And so I always have been of the mindset of like, why are we gatekeeping this information from people? Like we should be sharing it. So then I like on my own would share on LinkedIn like the things that I was learning or like stuff that I was doing in my job. And it ended up getting like a lot of traction. And I ended up gaining like a good following there just because of that type of content that I would post. And I would meet with people that would message me. I would always answer my LinkedIn messages and I would have just like informational calls with people and give them advice for their career. And so all of that kind of led me to realize like there's like a huge need for something like this and like a really big gap in the market as far as like just education and transparency around like the hiring process and how it works. And so many people are doing it wrong that just don't know that they're doing it wrong. And if somebody told them, it would make everything 100 times easier. So I was just like, this all sucks. Nobody's trying to fix it. And so I'm just going to do that.
Now, wait, you mentioned it in the very beginning of answering that question. In the world of sports and media entertainment, what does an entrepreneurship look like? Like, how does that fit into this chaotic world where you think entrepreneurship would not really succeed? How does it
Mm.
succeed with what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it succeeds because like my whole struggle was that I always wanted to make like the hiring process more transparent, more equitable for anybody that wanted to work in sports, right? But I thought I was going to be able to do that by being a recruiter and working, going through all these different companies and recruiting and hiring people there. And then I realized when I was at those companies that I can't do that because you're just working for one company. So it's like I'm not making like a large scale difference. I'm not like helping everybody get their dream job. Like I'm only helping people get hired at one company, right? But then also that company, like as an average person, you don't really have like a lot of say unless you're like in the leadership positions and stuff. So there's always things that like you're told to do or that you have to do that you don't necessarily want to. And so I was like seeing myself contributing to the problem rather than
Mm.
solving it, which is
Yeah.
always what I wanted to be doing, but didn't have like the power to do in the companies that I was working for. So that's why I decided to go off and start my own thing because I was like, people just like need help, and where that succeeds is that I partner with all of those companies that I worked for and more. So now, like having my own company, I can fulfill my purpose and my mission and like what I'm passionate about by also partnering with the organizations that people actually want to work for, that like people want to hire like talent that I'm working with.
Yep.
Um, and that's how you can scale, right? Like these organizations are looking for solutions like what I'm building. They
Okay.
just don't exist. And so them trying to do it on their own is also not working. And I don't think people really understand that because recruiters don't talk about things like this, and like nobody talks about the recruiter struggles or challenges that recruiters face. And so nobody really knows about it. But for recruiters, this whole process is like really horrible as well. And so by creating something that fixes that, we can work with all different kinds of companies and help everybody get hired, which is the goal.
Now, outside of the industries that you're really focused in, have you seen something that you are building that, is in healthcare or is in tech or is in different industries? Have you seen that? Or are you still very much one of the first few that's creating something like this overall?
Yeah, there are other companies that are building similar type of products, all like a little bit different. There are some that are in other industries like tech, healthcare, like those ones that you mentioned. There are also some products that exist kind of just like anywhere. So, theoretically, sports and entertainment companies can use them as well. LinkedIn, like companies like that also are starting to create like AI tools and capabilities as well that are kind of similar to what we're doing. The difference is that we are curating the talent community to go with the AI tools. So a lot of other companies just give you the AI tool. So it's like our AI will like go through your applicants and like rank them from most qualified to least qualified, or like we'll go into your applicant tracking system and like help you find like the candidates that you're looking for. Our AI does that, but it also hosts a really curated talent community within sports media and entertainment that doesn't exist anywhere else, that like nobody has access to. And it also educates that community and makes them better job seekers. So like you're actually getting talent that is much higher quality than where you would get what you would get on LinkedIn or Indeed,
Yeah.
or any other like platform that you're using. Because our AI doesn't just serve the employer; it also equally serves the job seeker, and it tells them, these are the jobs that you should apply for. Here are your strengths. Here's how you should position yourself. Here's what your resume is missing. Um, these are the types of roles that you're qualified for. Like it does all of that too. So it educates the job seeker, which then in turn like creates a better process for the employers.
That's
Yeah.
amazing and so intuitive. And it's so important because I think when a lot of us are going and putting our resume together, we're like, this looks great. I have
Yeah.
everything I need on here. But you get to the point in your life and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, what experiences are important to keep on the resume? At what point do you drop the education piece off? You know what I mean? All of those things that you're thinking
Yeah.
about. But that's such an intuitive platform to create that really takes such a burden off of people, just resumes and all these different things that you're having to put together to get a
Yeah.
job these days.
For sure. Yeah. And it walks you through like the whole process from start to finish, like creating your resume and your cover letter, like even like editing your LinkedIn profile, like tracking all the jobs you're applying for. Like it does everything for you, and it actually gives you real feedback. Like a lot of the AI tools out there now that like we've been playing with try to like sugarcoat things for people. So like even LinkedIn's like I've been using LinkedIn's AI to like see
Yeah,
what they're saying, and like they're just like, oh, like you would be you have really great experience, and like you could be really good for this role. You just need to add like these things
yes,
to your profile. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm a horrible candidate for that job. Like, I am not qualified for this job. Like, you should just tell me that, like, why does nobody want to just be straight up? Because I think job seekers want someone that's going to just be honest with them and give them like the brutal
yeah,
truth. Like, even though it might hurt or it might like damage my ego, like, at least I know that. And I'm not like wasting my time thinking that I'm qualified for something that I'm really just not. And nobody
yeah.
told me that.
I think that's the trickiness with AI too right now, especially because one platform you put in this one thing and it spits out something completely different than if you were to go put it into ChatGPT or whatever other
Right.
platform. Like it is
Yeah.
crazy now how the different platforms of AI are just so
Yeah.
different, the answers that they're giving you.
100%. And that's what I found also. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to find like the truth in all of the mess, right? So like you said, you can put the same prompt into different AI engines and get different feedback, and then you don't know like which one to listen to. That's also why like I wanted to create a platform that was very specific to this industry, because it kind of minimizes the mess a little bit. Like, so it's not, yeah, the feedback is not broad and like overarching. It's like very specific. And we also, like myself and my co-founders, we built the AI tool for Arena ourselves. So it's like not chat gpt, like it's not like a different tool, like it's our own tool, and we trained it ourselves with our own knowledge and expertise of this industry specifically, and like what works and what doesn't work specifically in sports media and entertainment.
Love that. Now, you founded and are the CEO of Elevate Sports Talent, which is a personalized career coaching that, is helping with group programs, reverse recruiting, all these different things. Why then go co-found and become the CEO of Arena? What was
Yeah.
the move there? Because that was a whole year gap.
Yeah, it was. Well, to be honest, I actually was working on Arena the whole time since I
Oh,
started Elevate Sports Talent.
okay.
So it's they've kind of both happened at the same time. What I realized was that the real need is there was a real need for a platform that people could use that was different than what was out there. However, that was going to take a while to build, and which it has. It's taken like a year to actually like build and get it up and running. So in the meantime, I was like, what I can do is just like meet with people one on one and like help them and give them that like advice and guidance that I'm feeding my AI to give to people at scale. So that's kind of what I did with Elevate. It started with just me. I was just like offering myself as a career coach and like book time with me, and I'll help you like get a job. And I was doing that for like several months. And then about like 6 months into that, I started getting approached by friends of mine that were also like recruiters in the industry, or even not recruiters in the industry, but they like just have a passion for career coaching or guidance or like helping people in their careers, and they've built successful careers for themselves. And so they were coming to me and they were like, I want to do something like this. I just don't want to do it like full time. Like I want it to be like a side gig or like something that I can do in my free time. And so that's when I started growing like my coaching roster, and now I have 10 other career coaches on Elevate. So you can book time with me or 10 other people that are all in like different areas of the sports and entertainment space. And so they offer different like resources, connections, and also like wherever you are in your career, I kind of have somebody that is also there, so you can find someone that relates to you, versus like I'm not the number one source of like career information, like there's everybody is different, every like process is different. So finding someone that you resonate with or that you relate to is helpful and more helpful for that. So now that's what that's what we do. So it's basically just one-on-one career coaching. We do some group programs, we do some events and like webinars, just to try to help as many people as we can. And then Arena is really meant to be kind of like the supplement to that. Like Arena is the job board and the automated tool that you can use to like find the jobs and apply for it. And then if you need extra help or you need like a personal touch, then
Yeah.
you could go and get career coaching at Elevate.
I love that. And I love, because I was just about to ask you what the connection was going to be between Elevate and Arena, but that's fantastic to
Yeah,
hear that you thought through that and there is that great connection point there and great
yeah,
funnel work to make sure that people are coming in and are getting just a stupendous
yeah.
help.
Yeah. Because of the human experience is not to be forgotten. Like where AI can't replace everything, like having an actual person look over your resume or talk to you and like actually give you specific advice is still super valuable. And I do see one day like both of the companies probably like merging
Okay.
into one. And so like on Arena, you also have access to career coaches. But right now in the beginning, they're like still separate, but they complement each other.
Love that. I love that. Now, you were saying in the beginning, it's taken a year to build Arena, But on the flip side of some of the challenges that you have had, when people are coming to you to elevate and are saying and needing your help, what are some of the key challenges that these sports industry professionals or entertainment professionals are kind of saying, hey, we're having challenges here. This is what I really need help with?
Yeah, some of the top ones are like standing out, right? So that's like the biggest issue in the space is like getting through the
Nice.
competition. I actually pulled this stat recently that the sports media and entertainment industry is actually 2 times more competitive to get a job in than all other industries. And that is because on average, companies in this industry get double the amount of applications for every job than the average of all the other industries that are out there, which is crazy. And I knew that, but I just didn't have the numbers before, so now I do. Um, so basically, it's twice as hard to like get noticed and to get in front of a recruiter. Um, and so that's like the biggest challenge is like, how do I get past the hundreds of people that apply for this job? Like, how do I get to the interview? The other one is networking based typically. So like people that don't have access, that don't have connections to this space, like how do I meet people? How do I build relationships with recruiters or with hiring managers or just with people in general in the industry? And like, how do I use those relationships to help me like get more opportunities or to get referrals? Um, and then I would say the third one is just like a general confusion over like what types of roles to apply for. I work with a lot of people that are actually like trying to transition into this industry from a different industry. So they're like, they don't have connections, they do have experience doing stuff in other industries, but they want to like transfer that into sports and entertainment, but they just like don't know how to do that or like how to position themselves or like the
Yeah.
titles are different in other industries than they are here. So it's like, what titles should I be looking at? Should I be looking to take a step back? Like all of these types of questions are like a lot of the ones that I get asked most often. And it really, the answers are like very like personal sometimes. Like it's hard to give generalized
Yeah.
feedback on things like that. Like sometimes you do just have to like talk to someone and figure out where they are and like what they need to do like in that moment.
Now, your third tip, I'm going to ask a very selfish question because for myself as well, I've applied to jobs and I did not do sports in college, but I was marketing, I work in social media, those
Yeah.
transferable skills into working into sports. Sometimes you see and hear like if you haven't worked in sports, didn't go to school for sports, it's harder
Yeah.
to get a job.
Mhm.
Why is that from your experience and perspective? Just
Yeah.
what is the thing there with that?
I think it's harder probably just because like the recruiter, the hiring manager has so many options,
Yeah,
right? So like if you're applying with no experience in sports, but somebody else is applying with like direct experience in
yeah,
sports, like generally biasedly, like the hiring manager is going to favor the person that's already worked in sports because they feel like, oh, I don't have to train them as much, like they can just
yeah.
like come in and get started. That is like a false like perception of the hiring process that I'm trying to combat
Yeah.
with Arena. Like on Arena, our AI prioritizes candidates but takes industry out of the equation. So
Interesting.
it's unbiased in the way that it ranks people and their skills that they bring to the table. But there's also a lot more of a push nowadays. And like even when in my last role when I was recruiting, like I was getting a lot of hiring managers that actually didn't want to hire somebody from sports and they were like, I actually want like a different perspective. I want someone from tech because like they are doing really innovative things with AI and like I want someone that knows this types of things or like someone with a management consulting background. Like people were coming to me like I want fresh, like different
Yeah.
perspectives rather than just like the same type of thing, which is good. Like more people should want that and be like open to that. But there's still a lot of people that are like, oh, like I work at an NFL team, and this person also did social media at an NFL team. So like that's just like really easy for
Yeah.
me. And a lot of people default to that.
Okay.
However, I think the way to combat that without an AI tool like mine is to really craft like your resume, your LinkedIn, your cover letter to like speak to your audience. So
Okay.
like you really kind of have to know like how sports and entertainment hiring managers like speak, because they can be very different than finance and tech and healthcare. So like the way you can kind of figure that out is on the job description. Like the way the job description typically is written by the hiring manager. So whatever like language they're using, and like some job descriptions are more like friendly and like, casual, and like some are more like professional. Like you can tell a lot about that hiring manager by the way that they wrote like the job description too. So kind of like reading it and like understanding the tone that they're using and like the specific words that they're using as well. And then like replicating that on your resume to like match that tone and like use those specific same words and phrases that they're using on the job description on your resume. Even if it's like you did this in your current role, but it was worded differently, like word it the way that the sports people like are wording it, because then the less work they have to do to connect the dots, the better, because they just they won't spend the time to connect the dots. Like you have to do it for them and like talk to them in a language that they understand, and like that will help you get at least like an interview.
Yeah.
And then that's where you can really showcase more about
Yeah.
like your skills.
I love that. I love those tips and how to combat that.
Yeah.
I know Arena is there's a waiting list for Arena.
Yes.
Has there been any people that have gotten access to it earlier that you've gotten some feedback on? You've gotten some
Mhm.
um, things that you can improve on, things that people are
Yeah.
loving.
Yeah. So we are doing beta testing right now. So we are collecting a wait list, and we do have some people using it, but it's not fully out in the public.
Okay.
It will be in just a couple of weeks. So I don't know when you're airing this, but hopefully when you are, it is out. So it should be available at arenatalent.com, or if it's not, like that's where our wait list is too. Um, we have gotten really good feedback in the beginning stages of our beta testing. Our biggest like concern obviously was the AI, because we built it from scratch. So like we just like didn't know like when somebody used it like what it was going to say. So even just like that, testing that out has been really helpful. Thankfully it was very accurate, which was good.
Yeah.
That's like, most of our problems are solved. It did need a little bit of tweaking and stuff, so we
Okay.
did do a pilot um, program with the Minnesota Vikings. They like provided us with a job that they were currently hiring for. We shot it out to our wait list. We had people apply for it, and then we ran those responses through our AI and generated those like match scores for everybody, and then communicated that back like to both parties. So we did it a little manually. It was kind of like off the platform, but it was really to test the AI and the responses that the AI was pushing out to both job seekers and employers. And it did a really, really good job. We did have to go in and like tweak a little bit of the answers and just make it like help it understand like how to be more unbiased and like more inclusive in like the feedback that it's providing. But that personal like touch and us personally training it is like the only way for us to do that. So we went one by one through every single applicant. We like taught the AI like exactly what was right and wrong with what it spit out, and then reran everything, and it came out like much more accurate. So now we feel really good about where our AI is, and for people to be able to use it in real time on the platform, which is awesome. And now just what we're doing is like working through some of the UI and like the design and kind of like the flow of the user experience and what it looks like when they're on the platform. And then that's it. And then once we finish that, which should be pretty soon, we'll be out and people can use it.
That's fantastic. I'm so excited for you guys and
Thank you.
hearing more about this and just seeing this in the wild. I think this is going to be so cool and a tool that's going to be so helpful to so many people. I'm really excited for you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You mentioned it in the very beginning, as LinkedIn's, top voices and how you were sharing these things to kind of bring some transparency to all of these things you were saying instead of hiding it behind a closed door. Like, can you share more about some of those things that you were doing that people could see, like, oh, this is really what's happening?
Yeah. I would just, I guess I didn't even realize, like when I was a recruiter, what people, how much people didn't know, I
Yeah.
guess. Like I started just like talking to people and I was like, oh yeah, like when your resume comes in, like the ATS runs over it and like this is what it tells us. And people were like, what? Like that is like crazy information. And I was like, oh, like nobody knows about this stuff. So like and I know why people don't share it. Like a lot of companies are very risk adverse. Like they don't want to tell you like their processes or like what they're doing because they don't want to open themselves up to like lawsuits and stuff. I just don't think that that's really going to happen because even if you get a lawsuit, like the person's not going to win. Like there's not enough evidence to be able to prove discrimination and stuff. So for me, it's like that just shouldn't be a concern, but it is still for a lot of these companies that are like super old fashioned. But I was like, I don't know, like I'm just gonna share like what I know. Obviously, not like sharing private information or like anything like that, but just generally like what's going on, because even that like will help people. So I used to share things like how like conversations that you have with hiring managers, like recruiters and hiring managers usually have like an intake call
Right.
before they open a job, and you talk about like what types of candidates you're looking for, what are like the things that they have to have, what are the things that like you'd like them to have but are not necessarily like necessary. And like even those types of conversations, people didn't know like that we had those or that there was such a process like behind
Yeah.
opening a job or like writing a job description. Or even like how we filter through candidates. Like I have now 300 candidates for a job. Like, what is my process for going through them? Like, how many rounds of like reviews do I do? Like, people just really want to know that information, and nobody really understands it at all. And even like the applicant tracking system, there's so many like misconceptions about that. Like, people think it's like automatically rejecting them the second they apply and like that it's doing all these intricate things, and it's really not. Like the ATS is not a very intricate technology. Like it doesn't have those capabilities. And so like even debunking that has been uh, something that people have been really interested in. So a lot of that kind of stuff is what I used to post about. Also now, like me and my co-founder for Arena, Adrian, she's also like a career coach in the industry. We host webinars now called Recruiter Mythbusters, and we just basically talk about the things that people
Yeah.
think that are not true or just things that people don't know. So like we have a session this week on like job hopping and like what recruiters actually think about people that switch jobs very quickly, and like even things like breaks and stuff like that. Like that's just the kind of stuff that like why are we gatekeeping that information? Like people just want to know it, and like even if it makes them feel bad, like it's still better that they know
Yeah.
it than that they don't.
I think it's super important. It's definitely an area where it's kind of talked about, but not in a large way. Where when you go to apply for a job and you get a rejection, you're kind of sitting there going, "Why?" Like that is the biggest
Yeah.
question. Like, why was I rejected? And so I love that you're sharing all these things because it truly is giving people a deeper understanding of just the full process of some of these things, so people can actually understand the recruiters perspective and what is happening from the company.
Yeah, exactly. I just feel like that's the whole thing I'm trying to do with Arena too. Like our AI is like meant to like transparently share that information with job seekers in a way that's like personal to the job seeker, but it's not coming from the specific employer. So like they're still learning what they're doing wrong, but the employer doesn't have to be like, oh, like the risk like type of thing. Um, because I think it's just so important. Like if we empower job seekers with information, then like they can make more informed decisions. They can stop wasting their time because it takes so much time to apply for jobs. And they can only go after like opportunities that are actually make sense for them versus like so many job seekers are not doing that, and they're just like mass applying for jobs. They're applying for jobs that they just are never going to be considered for, and they don't know that. And so it's like we just need to tell them.
Yep, yep. Now, in terms of having a platform like Arena compared to, I do know there are quite a few people that you can hire a recruiter that will go out and do a lot of work for you. How
Mhm.
does that fit into this world of Arena? Is it a competitive standpoint or is it a parallel? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's not necessarily competitive. Staffing agencies and like recruiters, headhunters, they also are using Arena and will be using Arena as well because Arena is a talent hub, right? Like it's a community. So anyone that is hired by a company to hire for roles can also use Arena and like promote those roles to our community and also proactively source and filter through all the talent that we have for the roles that they're hiring for. So they also will be using it like as if a company was using it like kind of in the same way. However, the difference between like a headhunter and what we're doing is like we are a subscription based like platform that employers will use. The headhunters, the way they make money is they take 20% of the salary of the person that you hire that they present to you. That form of like expense, like I don't know what to call it, like
Yeah.
having to do that as a recruiter is not ideal. So like in my experience, in most of the companies that I worked for, we were told not to use headhunters or like not to use those external recruiting agencies because they don't want to have to pay that fee because it's a pretty hefty fee, like depending on the salary that the person gets that you hire. Um, in many cases where I see companies still using them is usually for either like a very specific technical type of position or a very senior level position. So like a C-suite SVP type of like position. That talent is like a lot harder to find and like needs to be more curated. But for the most part, for your like entry to mid to like kind of early senior level roles, like
Yeah.
most companies, especially in sports and entertainment, just don't use headhunters. Um, or if they do, those headhunters can also use us and we can all still get jobs together. Yeah.
Now, with Arena in the equation of all of this, where do you see some of the most significant opportunities for innovation and the recruiting process coming together in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh my God, so many. I think the biggest thing that we're doing is obviously the AI batching, like for right now, like that's just what is needed. So and then on top of that, the transparency and the equity, right? So like the AI matching is like it'll take what a lot of people do right now is like the very basic, like let me match your resume to the job description. We like take it like further than that. So we have every job seeker and every employer go through an intake form when they come onto the platform. And that form asks you about more than just like your experience. So it also asks you about like your attributes, what you look for in a company, what types of companies you're looking to work for, what types of companies you worked for in the past. On the employer side, it asks like what types of candidates you look for, attributes, like those types of things, what types of experiences tend to stand out to you, any like specific hiring goals, and things like that. So it takes into account like your goals alongside like the actual experience that you have or you're looking for to get like more accurate matches, and then it automatically will like show you like these are your matches. Every single person gets a score, like a specific percent match score, and then that same match score that the recruiter sees for a candidate is the same score that the candidate will see for that job on the other side of the platform. So it's very transparent, and like if you are a 96% match for this job, you should apply for it because you will know that on the other side, the recruiter will see that you're a 96% match for this job and you'll show up like at the very top. If you're like, we on the platform, we discourage you from applying for jobs that you're less than 60% match because likely there's going to be better qualified candidates for that role and you won't show up like on the first like list of candidates. So like don't waste your time, like doing that. So that's kind of like the first level of the innovation. We also have like an automated application tracker on the job seeker end. So every time you apply for a job, it saves in your application tracker. It saves the job description as well. So even if that job comes down, you always have access to the job description. And then it automatically updates as the employer takes action on your profile on the other end of it. So when you're reviewed, shortlisted, interviewed, offered, or rejected, it'll automatically update in your application tracker and like bucket all your roles. So you always know like where you are in every single process. And when you do get rejected, we offer recommendations on like why you got rejected and like how you can like improve in like your other applications. So that's like the innovation for now. We have a lot of other like future goals too that I think are going to take it way beyond like just a job board is like not enough,
Yeah.
right? Like there's networking, there's mentorship,
Yeah.
career development. Like we're going to be expanding our AI into all those different areas in the coming like years as well. So staying, becoming your like career coach or your like partner for your entire career life cycle is kind of like where I see arena going outside of just like the recruiting space.
That's fantastic. I love how you guys have more that you're just adding into this so people can continue to develop their careers and just really have a great feedback loop when they are applying for jobs, which I think is so important these days.
Yeah, it's so important. Like, why not give people information?
Absolutely.
Like, it just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense at all. I just want to ask, like, what continues to drive your passion for this and everything that you're doing every single day?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I just think about myself, right? Like me back in what was it, 20 like 13, 14, 15, like when I was doing internships in college, like I just had like no resources. Like I had no people that I knew that worked in this industry, nobody that even remotely could give me any advice. Like I had no idea what any of the jobs were that you could do or the recruiting process at all. Like I just had to learn like everything myself, which I am like kind of a psycho in that way where like I will learn it all myself, but not a lot of people are able to do that or have the ability to do that. So like there just needs to be somebody helping them, and like that literally has been like my mission for my whole career. So like every job that I've ever had, like my goal was always like I'm here to help people get their dream job in this industry. Like this is a hard industry to get into, but if you are passionate about it, then you deserve like to get a job here. And there's just like things that are outside of those people's control that make that impossible. And it's just getting worse. Like it's getting worse and worse and worse. Like it's way worse now than it was when I was doing it. So and the industry is not stopping, right? Like the industry is
No.
growing like exponentially. Like it's going to be way more competitive. So it's like if it's this bad now, how is it going to be in 10 years? Like we need to fix it. And then I just kind of, when I was in these roles, I looked around and I didn't see anybody else trying to fix it or really like putting in the time and energy to like build something technical that like would actually fix it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we just can't keep doing this. And if like I waited, I was like, somebody do something, like somebody create like this platform, and like
Yeah.
nobody was doing it. And I was like, fine, like I will just do it because I can, and I want to see what happens because I really think it'll help people. So that's just what drives me. Like every day, I just want to help people.
I love it. Parul, I can't thank you enough for hopping on here with me and sharing your story and more about what you're doing in this space. I think this is going to be such an incredible platform that so many
Thank
people are
you.
going to use out of. So just thank you so much for jumping on here and sharing your story with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, absolutely. You guys, I'm gonna have all of Parallel's socials linked down below. I'm gonna have Elevate, Arena, everything, so you guys can go give them a follow, stay up to date, join the wait list, as Arena is gonna be launching here soon. But just, Parallel, thank you so much again for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yeah, and as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.